Good morning and welcome, everyone. I call this Kansas Corporation Commission business meeting on Tuesday, March 14th to order. I'm Susan Duffy, serving as the chair of the Kansas Corporation Commission, and I'm joined by Commissioners Keene and Commissioner French. On today's agenda, we have 32 consent items and one discussion item. Commissioners, you've had the opportunity to review and study the consent agenda items. I will turn first to Commissioner Keene for any comments or questions.
No questions. I would note that I am recusing on consent agenda item number 3.
Thank you. And Commissioner French.
I have no questions. I will also note that I'm recusing on item number 5. But with those recusals noted, I would move approval of the consent agenda.
With the recusals noted, I would second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items, noting the recusal of Commissioner Keene on docket number 23 CONS 3234 CPEN. That was agenda item 3, and the recusal of Commissioner French on consent agenda item number 5, docket number 14 ANGG-119 COM. All those in favor, please vote aye.
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 Aye. The motion passes. Thank you. We do have a noticed item. It is the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission matter, docket number EL 2344. And our presenter today is our General Counsel, Mr. Brian Fedotin. Good morning, Mr. Fedotin.
Good morning, Commissioners. On February 27th, KEPCO, KMEA, and the Kansas Power Pool, collectively referred to as the Kansas Wholesale Customers, initiated a complaint against Evergy Kansas Central. The Kansas Wholesale Customers complaint addressed Evergy Central's calculation of its transmission and generation formula rates by double counting subsidiary earnings to calculate its equity capitalization. The double counting practices are contrary to each of the then effective formula rate instructions and are at odds with longstanding FERC rate-making policy and precedent on the treatment of undistributed subsidiary earnings and rate-making, addressed by FERC in docket number ER 22-1205 for the 2020 and 2021 rate years. The Kansas Wholesale Customer complaint addressed the double counting of subsidiary earnings for the transmission revenue requirement calculations for the 2018 and 2019 rate years, and the generation formula rate calculation for contract years 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. KEPCO estimates that Evergy Central collected approximately $1.1 million directly from KEPCO in excess of authorized amounts for transmission and generation services, and KMEA estimates its member cities were charged $300,000 in excess of Evergy Central's authorized return. The staff is seeking to intervene in comment to represent and balance the interests of Evergy Central, retail ratepayers, and the Kansas Wholesale Customers. Staff generally agrees with the Kansas Wholesale Customers complaint that Evergy Central incorrectly implemented its transmission and generation formula rate during the periods under review. The Kansas Wholesale Customer complaint is seeking the full removal of Evergy Central's subsidiary earnings, including Evergy Kansas South's retained earnings, in accordance with FERC order in the ER 22-1205 docket. Subsequent to that docket, or the order in that docket, FERC accepted Evergy Central's tariff revisions to include Evergy South's retained earnings on a going forward basis effective January 15th, 2023. The equitable treatment of Evergy South's retained earnings is likely to be a central issue in the complaint, as Evergy Central raised this issue in its rehearing request in the ER 22-1205 FERC docket. Furthermore, staff is seeking intervention to address a known error in the generation formula rate that resulted in the credit of ARR and TCR revenues in both the energy charge and the VOM energy rates paid by wholesale generation customers. The wholesale generation customers failed to raise this issue when challenging the generation formula rates for contract years 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. The generation formula rate specifically identifies ARRs and TCR revenue as energy charges and credits them against purchase power costs in FERC account 555. The TCR and AAR revenues were also credited against the VOM revenue requirement. The double counting error resulted from Evergy Central's classification of ARR and TCR revenues as other charge type in its FERC Form 1 annual report. In the calculation of VOM costs, the generation formula rate incorporates these other charges as an offset to VOM costs, resulting in generation customers receiving a credit for TCR and ARR revenues in the VOM costs and its monthly energy charges. Based on an initial assessment of Form 1, TCR and ARR revenue in 2018 and 2019 totaled $74.9 million, of which generation customers would be allocated 3.98% based on megawatt usage. Based on this methodology, staff estimates the double counting of ARR and TCR revenues resulted in a net excess benefit to wholesale generation customers of approximately $2.98 million during the challenged contract years 2019 and 2020. Staff is still working to recalculate the revenue requirement impact based on the actual GFR rates paid during those periods. Staff would also note that Evergy Central identified and corrected an error in its 2020 FERC 1 form, yet that error existed for generation formula rate contract years 2015 through 2020. Staff estimates that generation customers received a net excess benefit of approximately $6 million during this period. These changes in historic GFR revenues could end up flowing through the WR component of Evergy Central's energy cost adjustment and potentially affect retail ratepayers in Kansas. For all these reasons, staff would like to intervene and fully participate on behalf of the commission. Authorization is requested to intervene and file any pleadings, protest, testimony, or other filings necessary to protect the interests of Kansas retail ratepayers and balance these interests with other Kansas customers, including wholesale customers. Staff plans to circulate outside counsel Jason Gray's request for intervention and comments to the commission prior to filing the document at FERC on April 3rd, 2023. Just to reiterate, staff requests approval to intervene and participate in docket EL 2344 through its DC counsel, Jason Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Fedotin. I move the commission authorize our DC counsel to file for intervention in FERC docket number EL 2344 and fully participate in the matter by way of conducting discovery, filing testimony, and making any other filings as necessary to protect the interests of Kansas ratepayers.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote aye.
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 Aye, the motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Fedotin. I appreciate that. All right, commissioners, it appears we've reached the end of our agenda. If there are no other comments, questions, or items to come before the body, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Take care.